Hello, welcome to this week's episode of What One Thing, One Business, One Story, and One Lesson to take away in action every week for small business owners looking to grow. I'm Hayley Baxter.
I'm Phil Davenport, and today we're joined by Stuart Mason, who built a hugely successful print business until the financial crisis exposed risks he didn't even know he was carrying.
Stuart's business was asset rich, growing fast, and doing everything a successful business should do, right up until the point a perfect storm of discounting, an economic crash, and a sudden lack of cash flow meant he lost it all overnight.
If you're stretching your business, investing heavily, or assuming growth automatically equals safety, this episode is a must listen. Let's get into it with Stuart. So before we get into the what one thing, Stuart, let us know, was there a challenge, a turning point, or a wake-up moment that set the scene?
Oh, that's a very good question. Was there a challenge, a wake-up? Well, I think the wake-up moment actually is when you're opening the door and the administrators are standing there. And it happened that quick, Phil. I mean, it was a number of tough trading years, but we genuinely thought we were trading out of it. And we just got a couple of curveballs. Those in business at the time, at the back end of the credit crunch, will remember how the banks behaved, brackets deplorable. And we got a couple of curveballs. So it was a couple of really tough trading years, and the end was brutally quick. Right up until that very day, we thought we could trade out of it. You know, that's just life's curveballs when it comes to business.
I mean, that is more than a curveball, isn't it? I think we've all, somewhat having been in business for a while, you realise that your order sheet isn't what's important. Your cash flow is what is important. And certainly I think what you're insinuating there with the bank taking credit off people as they so kindly did back in the golden day of the financial crisis, when we were all backing them with our taxes and they were happy to rip the legs from under people. Just talk to me, was it literally that you came in one morning and the administrators were just in your office?
Well, what happened was MD Scott, a limited company, knows there's a fine line between trading solvently and insolvently. And the business had been losing money for 18 months now, right? However, although we were cash poor, we were very asset rich. We had 11 print centres at this point, and we owned all our properties. That was one of the things that was really smart. We owned all the properties we traded out of. Some had commercial mortgages, some were fully paid off. So there was a massive property portfolio there of about 1.4 million in unencumbered asset property. So the business was never insolvent in that case. But what had happened was we were right up to the limit of overdraft and ran out of cash in the bank. We had literally not a penny, right? And we had said to the bank, we need to take some of this property and remortgage it, right? There's massive value there. And the bank said, no, we're not going to give you the money because, you know, we're not happy with the performance of the business, despite it now actually being almost back in the black at that point. So long story short, the bank had said they were not going to lend. And when we then said, well, we'll go to another lender, they wouldn't release the standard security on the property because the bank knew that the debt of the business and the property assets, the bank were going to come out completely clear. So much so they actually had to pay a dividend out to creditors. It was ridiculous. The business should never have failed, Phil. Never have failed in a million years. But the problem was, as soon as the bank said, no, we're not lending, we're not giving you the money, and as soon as they said, we're not giving you the standard security, Hayley knows what happens next. You're now trading insolvently, knowing you're incurring more debt and you can't meet those obligations. On the advice of our accountant at the time, he said, mate, you've got no option.
How it's really interesting because that's the backstop of many people when they're asset rich, because they think, well, I've got all, you know, that's like, you don't worry because I've got all this. How can it become a problem? So that's a massive lesson just in itself, isn't it? And I'm guessing the economic environment probably played into that a little bit as well, not just the situation of the trading of the business.
Absolutely right, Hayley. It was everything. It's what I refer to as the perfect storm. So I had made a number of mistakes in the business. Hey ho, we all do, we're all human. I had made a couple of, incorrect investments in the business. That is, we had also, but we were growing towards 5 million. So a lot of equipment was purchased on leases. The timing, when you look back on it, you laugh. Because laugh's the wrong word to use, but we just literally signed a lease for a new £1 million printing press. And the finance company, who are also the bank, were walking out the door at that point. one of my friends says, Lehman Brothers have just gone bust. How will that affect us? So what, right? And of course, so the financial crisis, as it became, nobody in a million years knew it was going to go that deep for that long, right? And the ramifications of it. So you put all that together, and yeah, Hayley, we were in trouble.
So, a man of so much knowledge and experience and advice, how are we going to go into the one thing that you're going to share today?
The one thing I'm going to share today is around discounting, right? I want to talk about discounting because as we see business getting tougher and more challenging and demands from consumers, we see discounting rear its ugly head more and more. And it's something that I did a lot in my business, right? Bearing in mind it was a printing business, it was very competitive, commodity based as well. So a lot of your customers are buying on price, so you've got to be competitive. But at the time, competitive doesn't mean cheap. So at the time, I wasn't really aware of that. We were always price focused, but we should be more value focused. So what I want to talk about purely is about discounting, right? And it's not to say that you never discount, right? As a business owner, you've got to make a commercial decision. What I want to talk about today is the dangers of discounting, right? Because a lot of business owners that I talk to and work with are not aware of these potential issues. And when I share these numbers, right, people watching and listening to this are going to sit back in their chair and go, wow, I wasn't aware of that. And you might not use the wow word. So let's think about what discounting actually does. In my view, right, feel free to disagree. I think straight away it attracts the wrong clients. Discounting tends to attract the wrong clients. It attracts people that are buying purely on price, and we know that's not good business. And as obvious as this sounds, every penny of discount that you offer comes right off your bottom line. Right? Because your suppliers aren't going, hey, Stuart, that's okay. You offer the discount, here's a saving for you. Your landlord doesn't reduce your rent, your power company doesn't reduce your power prices. So all your costs have stayed the same, but you've discounted. Every penny of that discount comes right off your profit, right off your bottom line, right? But now let's start to put some numbers on it, right? Because I didn't know this stuff, right? And when I look back at some of the discounts that we offered when I had my printing business, I'm like, oh my God, how did I not know this? So if you've got a 25% margin, right? Not the best margin in the world, not the best, not the worst. If you've got a 25% margin and you offer a 10% discount, and a 10% discount's nothing. We've got furniture retailers, we all know who they are, offering like 90% discounts. But if you've got a 25% margin and you offer a 10% discount, how much more have you got to sell to make the same profit before you offer the discount? Does anybody know, apart from Hayley, right?
I know well. I can't. I'm trying to buzz over the maths there, and I'm trying to think if I sell at 10, £7.50, let's go with that. So we've got markup margin, and immediately I'm already wrong. So £2.50 I'm going to make, and I'm going to take off 10%, which is £1. So I'm going to make £1.50. So I'm going to need to sell, I don't know, another 40%. I'm going to say 30%. Go on, hit me, Stuart.
67% more. 25%.
I went high with 40 as well.
Margin, 10% discount, 67% more.
Wow.
Now, you think what the mechanism that now happens, right? You've now got to sell 67% more just to make the same. So your campaign that you're running to bring in more customers, is it even going to bring in that extra revenue in the first place? That's question number one. Question number two is, how does that then start to impact your business? You've now got to sell 67% more just to make the same. That's more resources, it's more time, it's more pressure on your team. And of course, you've got to bankroll it as well. So if you've got a fairly big business, that could be a huge chunk of cash flow. But it gets worse, right? So here's a question for you again, Phil, right? You've now got a 30% margin. So you've actually realised that Stuart was right, discounting is bad news, so you stop doing it, you increased your prices, and now you've got a 30% margin. But Hayley comes along and says, business is slow, Phil, we need to do a discount. And Phil goes, I'm going to offer a 25% discount. So you offer a 25% discount on your 30% margin. How much more have you got to sell to make the same?
Oh God, now we're talking. I mean, I can't do the margin calculations in my head, but let's keep it as market. Let's say it was £3 profit. I'm going to take £2.50 away though, so I've got to be 50p. So I've now got to sell maybe 6 times. So I don't even know the number, but it's going to be a lot, isn't it?
You're on the right track, right? It is 500% more. Right? Now, the reason I brought that figure out is that's exactly what I was doing, right? A lot of the print stuff that we were offering, the business cards and leaflets and whatnot, were quite low margin. Where we made our money was on efficiencies, how quickly we got it out the door, which we were exceptional at, I've got to say. But I would then offer a 20% discount, right? I would then offer that 20% discount, a 25% discount rather. Totally oblivious that I've now got to sell 500% more. Even the best marketing campaign in the world is unlikely to achieve that. That's the one that scares business owners, right? Because then you are putting massive pressure on your capacity, your delivery team, your resources, your cash flow, right? And you're just making the same. So really, for that 30% margin with 25% discount, for that campaign to be a success, you're probably looking at 1,000% more to make money from that campaign, right? Now, that's the dangers of it, right? Financially. But the other danger as well, and this is what really caught us out, we didn't see this one coming. You assume that you offer a discount, you get customers to stay with you. They buy higher price. No. That's a myth, right? What tends to happen is you get bargain hunters that come along and they're always looking for the best price. So the business owners that think, well, do you know what, I'll go in low price, I'll get the customer in, then I'll put the prices up. It doesn't happen. You offer low prices, you get the customer in, you put the prices up, the customer goes. It doesn't work for most businesses. So what you then start to do is you start to create a culture of bargain hunters. You start to build a brand around discounting so that people will know, well, it doesn't matter what price they say it is, I know there's room for haggling there. So like I say, it's not a case of not discounting. It's just know the dangers and the cost to it before you do. So Phil, I'm going to throw this back to you, Phil. When would you discount? When would you say, well, do you know what, it's okay to discount? When do you think it would be okay to offer a discount?
I think as a services industry, we don't often tend to discount. One of the reasons behind that is I get really grumpy if I go to a supplier and they say, look, the price is £100, Phil, we can't do anything. And then on the 29th of September, when the quarter's coming to an end, they phone me up and they say, Phil, well, are you still interested? Because we can do that at 80 now. And you suddenly think, hang on, because now I start to feel like, okay, what price is everybody else getting? Am I, because this was going to be a great deal, but is it a great deal? Because you're saying to me that I'm getting the best deal in the world. However, I would say if I've got an excess of stock or there's an amount of things that I have to shift, but I would, in my industry, maybe because we've got very long-term relationships with customers, I would be very wary of it because I don't want them thinking, I've been a customer with you for 7 years, Phil, and Stuart's just rocked up on day one, and you've all of a sudden given him all of these freebies that you've never offered me. So I do sometimes tend to throw stuff into existing customers who've been with us for a while and say, would you like this? Because I always feel really guilty. I don't know if that just makes me a terrible businessman, but I would have thought if I've got a load of iPhones and I know that the iPhone 14 is about to come out, I've got a legitimate reason to say to everybody, here's a great discount.
Absolutely. So I was working with a business owner a couple of months ago now, actually, about at the start of the summer, and they had some cash flow issues, profitable business, but some cash flow issues, but they had way too much stock. Now, the issue was a lot of the stock had been in storage for some of it 2 or 3 years. So this stock was now becoming out of fashion, so to speak, right? And it was in storage, it could get damaged, etc. So every week that stock was in storage, it was just devaluing more and more and more. And I had said to them, you need to get cash in the business, so you need to clear this old dead stock. And they really resisted it, and they kept on going back to me and said, well, Stuart, you said, the danger discount and don't discount. So why are we going to offer 40 or 50% discount? That's crazy. We're actually losing money on it. I said, yeah, but the number one priority in this instance is to get the cash in. Otherwise, what's going to happen is, being brutally honest, which I am, you'll always get the truth from me, is you're going to go bust. And the first thing is they're going to do is liquidate. It's going to sell that stock at 5% of its value. You need to clear the old stock and get cash in the business because your stock's devaluing. Plus, how much does it cost to store? You've got like a 30,000 square foot factory here. full, full of stock. So that was one issue. If you've got a new product, perhaps you might do a discount, right? So, hey, I've got this brand new widget, right? And it's called ChatGPT, right? So I'm going to discount it to get people on board. That's absolutely fine, as long as people know that it's this today and it's that tomorrow. And one thing I always say, Phil, as well, if you do offer a discount, so let's say I decide, Phil, I'm going to give you a discount. I want you to come and
Oh, of
join
course you would,
the
Stuart.
Avoid the Wreckage program. And it's normally 600 quid, but you know what? I'm going to give you a little discount, Phil. I'm going to give it to you for 500. I will invoice you at 600. Then I'll show the discount on the invoice of £100 so that you know and see what the full value is. So we see this a lot in trades and construction. I always say, make sure if you do offer a discount, you show the full price on the invoice, then the discount, so the customer has no doubts or no queries or no illusions that that is the standard price. That's just one thing that I throw in.
I think the thing that really we're saying is it's about making educated decisions, isn't it? Whereas I think what happens a lot in business is that people don't make educated decisions. They do things because they see other people doing it. And I've had this conversation a lot with a few of my clients, really, where their kind of point back to me was always, well, other people in our industry do it, and if we don't do it, we're not attractive to them, and so on and so forth. But I think that's the way that I would sum it up, is that it's about educated decisions and that you're doing it for the right reasons and it's the right thing for your business at that time, in, you know, exactly like you've shared some very specific circumstances there. It's really interesting because you do sometimes feel like you've got to just keep up with the Joneses and do what everyone else is doing.
When I first started out in business, I wasn't aware that and I don't tend to do this as much as I probably should, but one of the things that a lot of certainly FDs or finance directors or whatever are trained in is just to say, Stuart, is that your best price? Can you discount this? And often they're used to just hearing, no, that's our best price. But as a new business owner, you feel that you're not going to actually get the deal unless you discount, because why else would they be saying to you, not sure about this price, what can we do to trim it?
Yep.
And sometimes as a new business owner, you do need to go in and, as you say, Stuart, display it on the invoice and say, well, look, I'll be honest with you. We are a new startup. We are looking to get customers on board. So what I'm going to do is offer you a 20% discount on your agreement for the first year. But be aware this is the full price. And in a year's time, we're going to be established. And you should also see the value that we're bringing to you at the end of that first year. So that was
Absolutely.
a mistake I made.
No, I agree with that entirely, Phil. That makes perfect sense. And you said something very interesting there about the best price. I've got a little secret weapon that I'll share if everybody listening to this when somebody asks what's your best price. So let's say, Phil, I offer you my new program at £500. You turn around to me and say, Stuart, what's your best price on that? I'll go, oh, what's my best price? Phil? £650. What? £650? But you said 500. Yeah, but you said what's my best price? 500 is the lowest I'm prepared to do it, but my best price is £650. And it soon gets the point across that, do you know what? We're selling here on value, not on price. Price is what you pay, value is what you get. And if you're going to discount, it's not for me to say yes or no, it's got to be a commercial decision for you. The whole purpose of the podcast today was to make you aware of the potential risks, the dangers of discounting.
And I think we've had a really good, cheeky little chat in regards to, I think there's kind of two sorts of discounts, aren't there? There's a discount over a promotional item that you've either got too many in stock and you're paying for storage, or you're a new startup and this offer is only going to be on until we hit this number. But I thought it was a phenomenal point you made around, I'd never even thought about the discount and the percentages and how much more you need to sell. And I think that is a danger that a lot of businesses make, where we discount much too quickly, as opposed to, my favorite thing is always to say, we can do it cheaper. Which piece would you like me to take away? Yes. Which service would you not like? If you're that cost dependent, what can we remove from the deal? But I absolutely love it. Those numbers were genuinely mind-blowing to me.
One final thing to wrap up with, Phil, for any business looking for discounting and running campaigns, is to ask yourself this question. How many of these customers that take advantage of the discounted rate would have paid full price anyway? Because when you factor that in to your campaign, all of a sudden it becomes really scary. Whoa, we've got to sell all this extra just to make the same, and 60% or 70% of these customers would have paid full price anyway. Yeah, we'll just maybe wrap up with that one and let you think about that.
It's actually really true that slightly different scenario, but I used to run a dancing school and we used to offer like a free trial class for people to come along and just have a go for free. And I added it up over a year, how much money that had, and bearing in mind, we didn't really make money. I wasn't doing it for that reason, but I added it up over a year of how much money it had actually cost, you know, how much extra money I would have had I charged for those free trial classes. And I did it exactly because that's what everyone offered. So I was just, you know, doing what everybody else did. And it was a lot of money, which I could have used to put back into the dancing school and, you know, bought equipment or whatever with. And secondly, I actually don't think it made any difference. Those people that were coming along, if they'd come and they paid, you know, the £3.50 or whatever it was to join in, it wouldn't have made any difference as to whether or not they chose to stay and carry on or just come to that lesson and leave. But I would have had, you know, 100 quid more or whatever it was, which would buy, you know, some new mats or whatever. So it's very, very true, a true lesson.
That's something else to add in as well that you've got to ask yourself is, and I have this conversation with business owners when we talk about offering a free course. Most people that are offering, myself included, that have got online courses, you've usually got a free course. It's just the way everybody does it. But I'm seriously questioning it now, Hayley, for exactly the same reason that you're talking about. When you're offering something for free, is that the value that the person sees in it? Well, it's free, it can't be that good.
Yeah.
Whereas if you're charging for something, even if it's a nominal amount, then you've basically got skin in the game. So that's another one to throw into the mix as well.
So it's that time. Give us a shameless plug where people can connect with you, who you're looking to work with, and all that jazz.
Excellent. So the shameless plug is, we'll start off an easy one. Let's buy the book. You're not getting it for free, because we now know that's bad news. So go into Amazon. It's an Amazon #1 bestseller, How to Write Your Business. It's only a tenner, for God's sake, and that's including Amazon post it out to you as well. I think I make a quid out it, right? So if you want a £2 discount, you're on to plums. So that's #1, buy the book. And from the book comes the program. Right, so I've now got a program, and it's called How to Avoid the Wreckage. And How to Avoid the Wreckage looks at a lot of the stuff that I did wrong, obvious, and how to avoid that. Because the real serious thing is, I didn't actually realise that at the time I was making these mistakes, because the success of the business was masking them. Plus, my arrogance didn't help as well. So Avoid the Wreckage is the online program now that I offer to business owners. So if you want to find out more about that, connect with me on LinkedIn. Stuart Mason, How to Write Your Business. Connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm posting stuff all the time. I've got another brand as well. It's got a bit of a rude name, so I won't tell you. It's How to Seriously Un Your Business. And it's a lot of the content that we share. And I give away a lot of that on LinkedIn as well. So join me on LinkedIn. I've also got a program I run called the Disruptors Club, and that's for business owners that really want to push themselves forward, want to mix with the like-minded business owners. So that's probably enough plugs to keep going. So just connect with me on LinkedIn. We'll have some.
Thank you so much for joining us, Stuart.
Wow, what an eloquent, honest, and let's be honest, super successful entrepreneur Stuart was. I really felt a heartfelt, almost an opposite, almost an anti what one thing that's definitely a mistake that I've found myself making in my business. What was your big takeaway, Hayley?
I think the thing that I hope people take away is the realization of the true impact of discounting and what it really, really means to your business, and how much more you've got to sell to then make the same amount of profit. Because it's a huge, almost misconception, and people just genuinely don't think about it in that way. It's completely insane to discount, really, when you really look at the numbers.
For me, some of it comes down to that level of confidence. When I worked on market stalls years and years ago, I remember people coming up and saying, the market stall round the corner has got the same product as you, but it's £5 cheaper. And you'd say, well, I'd probably go and buy it there then. And they say, well, what, you're not going to discount yours? I say, no, okay, right, I'll pay your price then. However, when we're selling ourselves as businesses and when we're selling our own services, I think it takes a much larger level of confidence to be able to say, no, that's my price. And when they say, God, come on, you're driving a nice car, surely you don't need to pay us to pay that. You say, no, that's what I need to do to keep my staff motivated when they work for us, to keep you with the best-in-class tools that we use, and to make sure that you get a great service. Because if I bring the value down, I'm going to have to take something away, and you're going to get a worse level of service, and that's not what I want to give you.
Yeah, and I really like that. That's another really good thing that you've just summarised there, that you touched on as well in the episode. It's not, I'm just going to give you a discount, or I'm not going to give you a discount. It's, well, this is what everything looks like. If you want it for this price, we can do it, but that means you only get this, not that. And that's a great lesson to learn early on and to practice, because sometimes, and that sounds like a really odd thing to say, and it comes back to your point about confidence, but sometimes it's just practicing that when somebody asks that question, having the response ready, and then practicing saying it, because then actually you don't stumble because you're prepared for it. And then even if you don't feel confident on the inside, because you know what your response is, it then, over time the confidence will build.
Yeah, and when we're engaging with bigger businesses, you then need the confidence to wait. Yes. So you say, and this is maybe another what one thing, but you say, Hayley, we can't discount the price. That is literally the best price. When do you think you'll be able to make a decision by? Because if you forget that question, you think the whole reason that they're not buying is because you didn't do a discount. And you, certainly if you're me, you wake up every morning and hover over, should I send them a 10% discount email because they'll come on board? And realistically, if they don't want to come on board at the right price, then they're either the wrong customer, wrong price, or they're right customer, wrong price.
Yeah. And how many times do you hear people say that, not, you don't hear people say it, but you're part of a, often when I put accountancy proposals in, the potential new client will say, oh, I've got a few proposals from different people.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes there's been times when we've not won the business but it's not based on price. So somebody who's more expensive than we are has won that business for whatever the reason is. But then you're almost sat there thinking, perhaps if I discount, perhaps if I'd done it. And actually that's not, it's a web of lies. That's how I'm going to sum it up, discounting. I think it's a great what one thing, and one that we haven't spoken about before. So thank you so much for joining us. We really hope that you found this episode useful and you have a takeaway to help move your business forward.
And if you did, please do us a favour. Share this episode with someone else who's on the same journey, and we'll see you next time on What One Thing.